This is the YA romantasy series that everyone is talking about. It's about a girl with no powers and a super powerful prince bound by duty. Add in a Hunger Games-esque trial, secret, and a swoony romance that's anything but simple. Today we're diving into, did you guess it? The Powerless Trilogy by Lauren Roberts, especially with the grand finale in Fearless that just came out, and whether this fantasy romance series is worth the hype. And of course, we'll also address the prologue and epilogue of Fearless that had a lot of us going, "What? Who is it?" So for those that are new to this Powerless Trilogy, let's start with a really quick overview. I will try to be as quick as possible, but spoiler alert, because as I talk about each book, especially coming at the end of each book, starting with the end of the first book and then going into the other ones, because as you give synopses, you're gonna find out some of the things that happen because it picks up where the cliffhangers are at the end of each book. So, if you have not read this book, spoiler alert, save this video and come back to it after you have read it because you are going to want to read this series. So book one introduces you to Peyton Gray. She is the female main character. She is an ordinary, which just means she is a human with absolutely no magic. And she is from the slums, especially after having lost her father. And she's living in a world that is ruled by elites, who are people with a lot of powers and magic. And they are actually trying to get rid of all of these inferior ordinaries. She's a kind person, so she helps someone that is being robbed, and that turns out to be the uber handsome Prince Kai Azar, and she gets swept into the elite purging trials. Basically, a Hunger Games style bloodbath meant for people with magical powers to prove themselves of their strength and eliteness. But wait, she said, I thought you said Peyton didn't have any powers. Well, she doesn't, but she is faking it, just like her father taught her to so that she would survive. Then you add in the morally gray prince. Hello, Kai. You will absolutely love him, especially if you like sappy, cheesy lines and the best swoony scenes. And now you've got a slow burn, enemies to lovers, forbidden romance layered with class rebellion and brutality because there are so many harsh things like spoiler for the cliffhanger. Her bestie doesn't make it simply because she was an essential part of Peyton's life and people want to hurt Peyton. Peyton ends up killing the king that she hated, who was the prince's father, and she flees. But of course, who has to come get her? Oh, that prince is also the enforcer and the person that carries out all of the king's bad deeds. Kai Azar goes and tries to fetch Peyton at the request of his brother Kit, who is now the crowned king. Then comes the novella, because there was a novella in between, and it's called Powerful, and it's a small one, which gives us a peek into Peyton's bestie, Adina, and her POV and life, as well as the love that she found and lost. So there are absolute BFF goals and the things that these two have gone through alone. Oh, my heartstrings, but the beauty in this and the love that you see, and it parallels what happens in here, but from Adina's point of view and the parallel timeline that is going on, because they do have to be apart while Peyton is in trial. So that's what you have here. I do not love that the sizes do not match. They're all different sizes, so we won't talk about that. I'll go into my full review at the end. But that was an interesting thing that I did not love. Reckless was full book two, and I do not actually have that because I read it on audio and uh, Kindle, but I should probably get it if I want the whole set, right? But what happens there? The stakes get way higher. So it picks up where Kai is sent to look for Peyton, as I mentioned, and bring her back to pay for what she has done. Secrets unravel, loyalties are tested, and the emotional roller coaster that we go on. Oh, just hang on tight, friends. This book really explores how Peyton and Kai evolve as the world around them really crumbles and people are dealing with what has happened. The struggle between duty and love is real for both of them. Some may say it's slower and very different from Powerless because it is. There's no action, there's no trials, there's no death coming at them every which way. But you see their backstories and the love, the appreciation they have for each other develop. So the cliffhanger at book two is after all the pretending that they don't have to go back to the real world because they're chasing each other, but they're kind of living in this hoo-ha lula land. And all crashes down, right? Because they have to face this reality that he has to bring her back or kill her. So the cliffhanger at book two, the end of book two, is that after all of this pretending, because they are pretending as they chase each other that they don't love each other and they can't say it to each other because they know what lies at the end, he has to bring her back despite wanting to run away with her, all this stuff. And when he brings her back to his brother, the now king, who he absolutely loves, his brother, Kit declares that instead of killing her for her transgressions, he is going to have her be his bride. Dun dun dun! Poor frickin' Kai, right? Now he is not only not being able to love her and is losing her to his brother, but has to see her every day and know that he could never have her. So that's how we move into book three, which is the finale for this trilogy. And it's called Fearless. This is where the stakes get the highest. Picks back up with what the heck happened with this bride thing. The offers being put out there to bring a united Ilia, which is the country that they live in, of ordinaries and elites marrying the two together to live together, saying ordinaries are okay, they should not be shunned, all of that. It is a way to unify and strengthen the country. While Peyton loves Kai, her duty to make Ilia the country that she had hoped for and a place that is safe for people like her, the ordinary people like her, that is in her hands and that lies heavy on her shoulders. And did we mention it's death if she does not choose to go and marry? However, she has to prove herself to the elites that do not want an ordinary on the throne as queen. She has to prove herself in trials again. Plus, then you mix in the longing between the two, Peyton and Kai, the agony of him knowing that he would never be, that they could never be, because of both of their duties in different ways, and then watching her have to marry his brother. Can you imagine? Then you also get these Edric, the big bad king that died, his POV chapters, his point of view chapters, and you see so much more into why people are the way they are and why things came to be. And it just brings all of the story together. And as I tell my kids, the company you keep is so, so important, friends. So, what are the themes that stood out to me? I think some of the biggest themes that we need to talk about is power is not just about magic. It is very clear in Peyton that she has no physical power, right? Magic, but she has the ultimate power in so many ways. She is clever. She knows how to survive. She has empathy. She has determination. It is that observing skill, that noticing, that emotional intelligence that makes her her, and it is her superpower. She is able to connect with people. She is able to read people. She is able to hone her observation skills to use it the way that she needs to. And emotional intelligence in any job, any role that you have, I think we all know it is a superpower. So it is a great reminder that you do not have to have magic or power in the way that people think or think they need. We all have power to use and we need to just use it well. Identity and belonging. Peyton constantly has to hide who she is or who she truly is and feels inferior or feels like she needs to prove herself. And that theme of pretending hits really hard because that's also Kai. Kai has all this power, but he is battling what he has been molded to be versus what he wants to be or who he wants to be. And all of us have these roles that we feel like we have been shooed into or need to fill, or that is what success looks like. And we do not feel like people will accept us unless we fill those roles or look like that life or whatever it is. And in this story, it brings it out. There's an identity, a belonging that when you feel truly seen, it is magical. Systemic inequality is another one. Obviously, there are ordinaries and elites. So you see this breakdown of how words can be spun to make ordinaries seem like this plague. And it's actually not, right? But there's a systemic inequality of people with power want to keep the power, people without power want to just be seen as equal, but there is just this difference and this gap that is hard to bridge. And you see that until you see these people that want to make a change. And even one person, right, can make a huge difference. And we often think, oh, we're just one person. But how much can we impact? What can we do? What are those actions that we take? I think this series is a great reminder that every person matters. We all have powers, we all have strengths that we can use to change the world for the better. Love shows up, guys. Love does the right thing. It cares for the least of these. It cares to do the right thing when it is hard, when it is not the easy choice to make. Love shows up. And love is a strong motivator, but unfortunately, so is anger and revenge. And you see that with all these different people that have really strong motivators to do the things that they do. It's not what you do with that anger, though, because a lot of us have pain. Well, all of us have pain and suffering and anger and vengefulness. But what do we do with that? Do we use it for good or do we use it for bad? You see that very distinctly in these, where there are people filled with pain and suffering, and they turn it and they use it for bad, to oppress people, to tear people down, to hurt others. Whereas other people say, I want to change the world because this is not the way that we should be living. This is not the way that people should be treated. And it becomes a motivator stemmed in love. There's still that anger and revenge under there, but it morphs into love, to caring, to bettering. And I love that. So, what are my honest reactions for especially this book, which is the finale, the newest? It literally just came out at the time of this recording, came out April 8th, and it is mid April, guys. So, if you have not read it, I know a lot of you have not. Hopefully, you have not made it to this point. If you have not yet read, because there are tons of spoilers coming immediately, and there already have been. But let's talk about my favorite moments and my reactions. Because, first of all, can we talk about how she wrote this book, the first one, at 17? Like, that is amazing to me. So, friends, follow your dreams, encourage your kids, if you are a parent, to do what they love. She could have just said, I can't do it. That's not something I can do right now. There are a lot of things that Lauren Roberts could have said, but she did it. And you know what? It's here. So not everybody is going to be the same success story, but we all need to follow our dreams and try to do the fun things that we want to do on our bucket list, or the dreams that we have. If you're an adult, do not forget your dreams. We can still keep them. I'm following my dream of talking about books with all of you, and hopefully this will be like my full-time job, right? But anyway, I digress. Okay, so back to the book. I first picked up Powerless, and loved it. I know people say, it's a knockoff of Hunger Games, or oh, it's Hunger Games with fantasy aspects, or oh, it's Hunger Games with the Red Queen, or whatever people say. That's fine. But sorry, shun me if you want, but I have not read Hunger Games, so I'm coming into this from a fresh perspective in that sense. Yes, the themes very well might be from what I know of Hunger Games. Like, it's fighting, it's surviving, it is going through trials, right? Yes, absolutely, those themes are there. Okay, with that said, the chemistry, the action, the character development had me from the start. I fell in love with Kai immediately. Even though he's supposed to be the big bad enforcer and all of that, you see that he is a teddy bear at heart. You see it with Kit, you see it with Jax, you see it with Gale, and of course you see it with Peyton, even though he's supposed to be her enemy, right? But you see the cracks in his armor and the softness that he has for them. The poetic lines that come out of Kai Azer's mouth and the way that he supports her in all the quiet and not so quiet ways. Kai, 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 Kai. Hmm. Then, when the king carves an O into Peyton's heart at the end of this book, right? Before she stabs him with her father's dagger after he had father killed, there's all kinds of coming around and getting what you deserve and things like that. But whew, I knew that sight that was at the end of the book would come back into play, and absolutely does in here. But man, oh man, the fact that Kai had to then go get her, the pain in my heart for both of them, oh, the emotional roller coaster that this thing makes you go on is a testament is a testament to the fun writing and the journey that you go on. Okay, and then you get to Reckless, which I said earlier isn't as action packed, but I really enjoyed that too. And if you have not listened to the audiobooks, I think they're great. Are they the best audiobooks I've ever heard? No, but they're good. They're good. And you see the two start to see each other more beyond the masks that they wear, because they have very strong masks put up for the world. Now you see the pain that hides in their lives, the parts that they try to hide from other people, except for those that already know them best and can see past their masks. And they are starting to lower that for one another. You see that these are flawed people that had big places of their life and opportunities of love and parenting just completely robbed from them. You see people that want to be loved and they're afraid to let it in again because of what they have experienced in the past. Some great losses. And these are people that pretend that isolated time, being on the run, is for them just to not have to face reality of their life and their duties. And then, as duty wins out for Kai and Peyton agrees to face her consequences, what a turn of events of where your heart gets ripped out again, because Kit says instead of killing you, which Kai was still not willing to accept, but it might actually be worse when Kit says, I am marrying you, Peyton. And that has whole other repercussions for Kai. That's when the whole fandom goes, what? How long are you going to make us wait for the finale? So, if you're already watching it with the finale out, here we go with Fearless, that picks back up where Kai is in disbelief that he is going to lose the one person he loves but cannot have to his brother. And now he has to protect her, see her every day, live in the same space as her, and see her with his brother every single day. So I wanted to really, really love this book because I loved the first 2.5 books, okay? But I kept going, what? As I kept reading, and I felt like I kept getting whiplashed, not only in all the things that were happening, because there's so many things happening and potentially not fully developed, And I felt like the book wasn't consistent with the characters that I came to know in the first 2.5 books, to came to know and love. The surprise here did get thrown in, which was Edric's point of view, the big bad king, right? Kai and Kit's father. And you get so much more of the backstory of all the kinds of people that were in here and his backstory of why he was the way he was and why the edicts were the way they were and all the different backstories. So I did appreciate that. And you see how much the books were actually charged with anger, hurt, and revenge. So it was fascinating, but I just could not get past all the things that were happening. And Kit, I was just like, is he good? Oh no, he's bad? But then the weird, deranged, like laughing, it just was not his character. And so I was very confused and I just felt like he was not done right. That he got the short end of the stick. And we'll talk about the epilogue and the prologue because you can't talk about that and all the questions without addressing that. You can't talk about the book without addressing that. But I was just totally confused. I was just totally confused. In my course of Whiplash too, I was like partway when the whole Kai thing happened, right? And it's like, we are halfway. There is no way because if Kai is gone and he is not endgame, I'm not finishing this. Of course, I had to finish it to make sure that he was endgame, right? But I was like halfway and I'm like, what the heck is happening? And it became clear and all that kind of stuff, right? But oh my gosh, the tears, the tears, the tears. So let's go into the prologue and the epilogue. Okay, so the prologue, when it first started, I was very, very confused because I started it and I was like, I don't even know what this is. Did I miss it from the last book because I didn't go reread Reckless before I started Fearless? I came back to it though, and I absolutely think it was Mac with Kit because there is some alluding to it later how they made a deal or that Mac wanted to be part of the trials with Peyton. So I absolutely think those two masked characters making a deal were Mac and Kit. Let me know if you think otherwise or have any other thoughts or convince me otherwise, friends, because I am open to other ideas. If you could give me some good source of evidence. Like right here, it says, now the figure lowers his voice. It needs to look real. Understand? Make me believe you. And he says, I will. And that is very much the words that he spoke to Peyton and said, we need to make this believable, right? So I think there's a thread there, and Lauren Roberts left that for a reason. But I absolutely believe that he was willing to sacrifice himself for Peyton and the cause that she stood for, and because she was Adina's bestie, someone that she was willing to lay out her life for. And he was also ready to meet Adina again, right? In the stars. I'll see you in the stars. So I absolutely think that was Mac and Kit in the prologue. And that he was willing to play his part to have a better Ilya. And friends, maybe I am a sucker, but I just wanted Kit to be good again. I wanted him to have redemption. I wanted him to be good and whole and not the big bad meanie that, his dad was and following in his father's sins. But alas, that did not happen. And like I said, I feel like he could have had a better story arc, and I hope that um I don't know. I know there's a novella coming out, and I don't think she has revealed anything about what that is going to be about, but uh I'm just sad. I'm just sad for how things played out for Kit, and it was a plot twist though to be like, oh, the love triangle was actually for Kai. Kit just wanted his brother back. It wasn't that he was actually interested in Peyton also. So that was a plot twist and a odd thing, but I guess it's, I don't know, a nice twist from just wanting the girl and bros fighting over a girl. I don't know. I also didn't see the whole sister thing coming, and maybe people smarter than I did. But it was just kind of weird. It was just kind of a weird thing. Like, he's so happy about this brother that is not actually blood related to him, but then is completely so easily rejecting this sister, even though he knew about it. And it's just a very strange thing to me. And then you have the whole Jekyll and Hyde thing with him. I mentioned that, right? It was just weird. I also didn't love that Peyton went to sleep with Kai before her wedding. It's just the more I think about it, the more disappointing with how it all went. Like, she had plenty of time to do that. Is it really the day before your wedding where I get it? It's like a goodbye, but it just wasn't consistent with all the things that I thought about her, about him, about just all the things, all the things. I just didn't get it, okay? I also didn't really like that Kai got pokered at the end by Kai. It just felt kind of silly. Um, the whole you didn't dodge, I think that broke a lot of people, but I just was like, really? That's how this is coming to an end? And I know if Kit did not die, Peyton and Kai would never have their path to being together, so I understand that. But it was just a strange ending to things. And so, do I have a solution or a way I wish I had seen it happen instead? I don't have a great solution at this point, friends, but it is what it is. This is just my reaction, okay? If you have other thoughts, because some people really, really loved it and thought this was the best one, and absolutely, we are all entitled to our opinions. So thank you for sharing in the comments what you thought in a kind way. And then Column, that guy kind of gave me the creeps to begin with. Like, can he really be good? Can he really be this nice person? But with his I am your father reveal, and that voice wasn't very good. But I just, as a parent, I cannot believe all the stuff that these people would do to their own parent or own child, and whether it is your biological or not. And I was just floored by what people could do. And I know there are people out there like that, but and then the whole Blair drama, I just couldn't see Peyton actually doing that. But maybe with the whole blackout thing, she didn't actually, or she pulled back. We don't know the whole story there. And then the fact that she's actually not dead and is alive somewhere else, it's all just very strange to me and feels like not fully vetted out, or just too many storylines all going at once that didn't get all tied up in a bow or in a nice, pretty story. That is how I felt by the end. I just kind of felt like emotionally spent, and like all my emotions were just kind of hanging and not knowing what just happened. I kind of wanted to be all tied up more so and live my happily ever after, if that makes sense. Okay, the epilogue. The epilogue with Kit and the stars. Who do we think those stars and those voices are? I'm going to go with Adina and Mac because I could think of different parents that passed and that could have been those voices, but Daddy King, Edric, definitely not a compassionate voice that is going to stick with you and stay with you and all of that, of course, unless you're his wife or something. But I think it's absolutely Adina and Mac, especially with the comment so many times of see you in the stars, right? And watching over you. And I think they are compassionate people, loving people that will be with you, stay with you, despite the flaws in your life. They see the good in you. So I think it's them. I think it is their way of saying it's okay. You can still be redeemed. You are still good. Be good. That part I can also still be convinced. So let me know what you thought of the epilogue. Let me know what you thought of the book. Let me know what you thought of the series. All that to say, friends, this This series has very little spice, and you know I love my spicy romanticies too, but this is so, so good without any of the spice. So if you are looking for something with less spice or just something that is good and captivating, I highly recommend this series, despite what I said about my confusion in Fearless. Tell me what you thought. Let's chat. And if you're ready for a monthly book club with me, let me know in the comments too, because I just may be thinking of one and need you to be there. If you enjoy fiction books like this, head to this whole playlist. I'll see you in the next video.